Hello. So in this video, I want to talk about the different types of experts the drone industry really needs. I'm going to go ahead and say there aren't actually enough experts in the drone industry. And I know that can be a controversial statement, but what I mean by that is not that there aren't enough experts by volume, there aren't enough experts yet by the different types of expertise that you need for a drone industry to be really, really successful. Let's have a look more in this video. Hey everyone, I'm Varun from Hammer Missions, and in this particular video, I want to go through what are the different types of drone experts that you need to really make a drone solution work. So, I think that the drone industry is a really, really special industry. It's one of those few places where you've got a flying piece of hardware that captures millions of data points as it zips through the air and captures that site or asset that everyone is interested in. And naturally, because of all the different technical systems involved, there's more than one type of expert that's required to make the operation work. And so, what we're going to do today is actually go through the different roles and responsibilities, the different types of people that you need to make a drone operation successful. So, whether you are a drone service provider, whether you're an in-house drone program, or whether you're an end client just getting all the deliverables, it's really important to understand what are the different people involved in the operation and how do they all sort of come together to provide a solution. So let's start with the hardware manufacturer. So the hardware manufacturer, and this is basically a very simple, obvious point, is very, very key and fundamental to the drone industry. If there is no hardware, well, there is no drones and there is no industry, as simple as that. And so the hardware manufacturer is the most important and key piece in making the drone industry work. And one of the things that we found is that DJI, for instance, being one of those dominant drone manufacturers, have really kindled and enabled the drone industry in multiple different ways. Now, the industry is moving towards different platforms over time. There's many different geopolitical considerations over here, and we don't really know what's going to be the dominant drone manufacturer in the future. But we know this for sure that there's going to be one major manufacturer that's going to be key, and they essentially are the market maker. They're the ones that actually make the industry work because ultimately they've been able to produce really reliable hardware at prices that actually make sense for the industry and actually allow for a lot of people to utilize all the data that comes out of the drones. So that's number one, the hardware manufacturer. Number two is the drone pilots or the drone service provider. So, in my opinion, the drone pilots and the drone service providers are very much the heart of the industry. A lot of these people came from hobbyist backgrounds that were initially just tinkering with drones. I myself initially started with drones because it was a hobby. But I feel that over time, we find that actually the drone service provider or the drone pilots has gravitated more towards being an aviation professional as opposed to just being a drone pilot. And the reason why I say that is because the core expertise that a drone pilot brings to the table is taking that piece of hardware that the hardware manufacturer made and making it possible to actually fly that equipment in an airspace which is heavily regulated and heavily governed by all of these laws as they should be. So essentially, the drone manufacturer and the drone pilots need to work hand in hand to be able to make the industry. And so the second most important role is essentially the drone pilots, who tends to be the aviation professional, process driven, very, very compliant with regulations, and understands how to make that piece of hardware fly in the right way to capture all the data in the right places and make sure that the operation is fully compliant. The next role is essentially the data analyst or the data advisor. So this particular role is essentially the person who's interested in getting all that data on their desk. They typically don't go to site, or if they do go to site, they don't go to site to capture the data. They basically are the people who are the quote unquote data scientists over here, where they essentially take the data and transform it into meaningful insights. So they might be a professional such as a surveyor or an engineer or an agronomist. Depending on the domain where the data is being delivered, they probably previously have worked with many different forms of data and they're essentially the whole world lives in data and moving data from one platform, one format to another, and being able to actually change the data and transform the data from a raw format to more of a processed, more of a cooked format where it can be absorbed easily by some software system, some process, some workflow, and essentially being available for the right use case. So the data analyst, the advisor is the third role that the industry really requires, and an expert that is becoming more and more savvy when it comes to drone data. The fourth role is essentially the software manufacturer. So it's no denying that we live in the age of software and AI, and whilst there are experts and people doing a lot of the work, doing work without software or computers or any of this modern technology we have is just impossible. And so the software manufacturer essentially provides a layer of efficiency, a layer of processing, a layer of added value that allows all of these different experts to work essentially very easily in a consolidated fashion and essentially get more out of the drone data. So the software manufacturer is the fourth main role, which essentially allows for both the capture of the data in the right structured way and also the processing and analysis of that data, and essentially works with both the drone pilot role and also the data analyst role. So that's sort of like the fourth role of the drone of the software manufacturer in the industry. And the final role, the fifth role, is essentially the decision maker. Now, the decision maker is a role that is typically abstracted, typically removed from all the other roles, and they may only be engaging with the data analyst or the advisor, and they typically tend to be the site owner or the asset owner. Typically, unless they have their own drone program, they wouldn't be really privy to all of the different roles and operations and details that go into making a successful drone operation. But they're the ones who are actually taking all of that insight from the data and getting to a decision. And this is the key understanding or key piece that we need to all subscribe to in the industry, which is at the end of every drone data capture, there is an end client, there is an end decision maker who's trying to go from drones to data to decisions. And essentially, what we need to do is everyone in that value chain, everyone from the hardware manufacturer to the drone pilot to the software manufacturer to the data analyst, everyone needs to understand that we are in an industry of service. We service the next person in the value chain or the next role in the value chain. And essentially, all of that leads to a cohesive decision being made by the end client or the decision maker role. And having that understanding just adds a layer of comprehensive service that is very much required for a drone operation to be really successful. And so what we need to take away, hopefully, from this video is that essentially the drone operation or the drone industry is a very unique kind of industry where you've got all these mixture of different experts that need to really come together in partnership because it's very hard for one company or one particular role to be good at all of those five different things. We're talking here from everything from aviation to data analysis to advisory on that analysis and then to actually owning and operating an assets or a site. And all of those 4 or 5 different things require completely different industries to come together, you know? So you've got aviation, you've got maybe construction, agriculture, maybe even public safety. And so all of those disciplines need to come together in partnership to be able to make an industry work. And I think if there's anything you take away from this video, in the next operation, try to understand who are the different players involved. So if you're capturing data, who are you capturing the data for? What is it going to be used for? As opposed to just being someone who just captures data, you can be much more informed and essentially capture the data to the right requirements because you're just that much more privy to what is going on. And if you're the end client or the end decision maker, you can also try and understand the pains and the challenges of the drone pilots. And whilst everything is abstracted from you, and whilst you're just going to get all of those insights on a silver platter, it's also good to understand what it actually takes to make a drone operation successful. And finally, if you're the hardware manufacturer or the software manufacturer, we're essentially providing tools in the industry and understanding the different key players and personas and how they interact with the data just allow for better tool development at the end of the day. And I think being in the product industry, it's always almost driven by feedback. So I think being open and listening to all of the different players in the industry and how they want to leverage the data, leverage the hardware is really, really important. So just wanted to go through all of these different roles, and hopefully this is enlightening if you're just starting in the industry, or if you're not just starting in the industry, hopefully this allows you to organize your thoughts around what does the market look like, what are the different players, and what are the different incentives. So hopefully this video was interesting. If you did like this video, do give us a subscribe. We enjoy all the support that we get from you, and it encourages us to make many more videos to shed more light on this really interesting and special drone industry. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you in the next video for Knowledge Hub.